Hey everybody, thank you so much for your 12 minutes of patience. I'm sorry it took us a little moments to get ready. One of the advantages is we're able to meet from around the world, which is awesome. As you guys know, Dan Rogers is in South Africa. I am in the middle US, and so we're on different sides of the world. It's evening for him, it's noon for me, and so we ran into a little bit of technical issues, but we have begun officially. And I'm very excited to be here today with Dan. Dan has been creating some awesome content for our community, as you guys know. He also leads a small group or a community type group of people for United Kingdom. So if you're selling in the United Kingdom, that meeting is every week. Is that right, Dan?
Yes, Tuesday evenings.
So Tuesday evenings for United Kingdom time.
London time, 9 p.m. London time.
Perfect. So in the evening for you on Tuesday. So guys, definitely check that out if you're in the UK. I see we have people here from Australia, people from Estonia, people from New York, or New York, depending on what part of the country you're from. People here from, let's see, Zimbabwe. That is very cool. People from Canada. So I just want to take a moment to recognize that we have people from 46 countries now who are part of this program, which is super cool. And it tells me there's something universal we all want. We want to build passive income to create freedom so we have time to do the things we love with the people we love and for the people we love, which is a huge part of that. Now, today's webinar is really unique. What Dan and I have done is we started a little mini-series of Q&A, frequently asked questions, with Seth and Dan. It's sort of like our own radio show. We're going to have fun with this. And Dan and I, we think very different, which is awesome. On a personality scale, we're very different. So I think we're going to complement each other very well to provide you guys with content that helps you to succeed. And what we're doing is we're taking all the most commonly asked questions on Facebook and we're building webinars around those questions. So we know we are going in depth on questions that are asked a lot. And so today we're going to be talking about the difference between major brands, like generic brands, and then major brands and generic brands, the differences between those, and how you know whether or not you're going to be selling a product that is a major brand or one that is a very private labelable brand. And then we're also going to talk about patents, because there's a great fear if you start selling a product on Amazon and all of a sudden someone contacts you and says, hey, you're infringing on our patent. What do you do in that situation? And we'll also be talking about what do you do when someone piggybacks on your listing, they're hijacking it. What are your options there to get them removed? And how do you protect yourself from that? And so we're going to do this from a very in-depth perspective, and we're going to go really deep. Now, as questions come up, I want you guys to make sure that you click on the little drop-down menu, which you probably saw in the pre-video to this, which I did a little training video, so that it actually comes up as a question. Because we get a lot of comments, which is awesome, but we want to really pick out the questions. So please make sure you guys do that. All right, so we're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to be presenting the first half, and then Dan will jump in, and as questions come up, Dan just say, hey, Seth, we have a question, and he'll answer those questions. And then Dan will present the second half, and I'll be fielding the questions, and we'll go back and forth like that. So you guys ready to go? You guys ready to do this? And please know, no matter where you are in this program, this is relevant to you. Whether you have a store that's already doing $20,000 a month or you just started, this is going to help you, because we're going to talk about something that's becoming an increasingly important issue today on Amazon, because Amazon's also changing and fluctuating, as you guys have seen as well. Okay, so we are going to get started right now. I'm going to first share my screen. Let me know when you can see it, Dan.
Seth, do you hear me? Okay, I got it. Can see it.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right, guys, so here we go. So I'm going to go back to it. So today is Just One Dime, frequently asked questions with Seth and Dan. Now, there's 3 questions that are coming up a lot. Number one, how do I know if my brand is generic or if it's a major brand? Number two, how do I know if I'm infringing on a patent? And number three, if another seller copies my product, is there anything I can do? Dan, can you hear me okay as I speak?
Perfectly.
Awesome. All right. So first question. Now, guys, these questions came directly from Facebook. Question number one. I'm in the find section of the coaching program. Seth says, might be in trouble here, Dan, to pick a generic product, but when looking for competition, searches for Yankee Candle. So I used that as an example, and I do remember doing this. Is this a recognized brand, or am I missing something? Question number two. So I find a product that meets all the criteria on Amazon UK, and I buy an identical product from Alibaba, differentiate it, and start selling. But it turns out the first product is manufactured in the UK and has a UK patent, and the product I am selling is a copy. Can my listing be removed? Question. Yes, go ahead.
Just, I don't know if you're flicking through the slides, but the slides aren't changing on screen.
All right, let me go back. Can you see that one right there?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Okay, I'll just do it this way then. I was doing the full screen version. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Question number three. So I find a product already for sale on Amazon, improve it, trademark it, and start reselling. Does the original seller have any rights to complain to Amazon and get my listing removed? If they decide to copy my variation, use my pictures, use my description, or just sell for cheaper under my listing, is there anything I can do? So these questions, guys, question number one, question number two, and question number three, we're going to address these, and we're going to go deep as we address these questions. So we'll begin with question number, we're going to cover all questions, but we're going to begin by going deep on the kinds of products your customers like to buy. The reason this is really important is if you understand the different kinds of products being sold on Amazon, then you can understand the difference between a generic brand and one that is not generic. In other words, a major brand. So here are the different kinds of products that people are selling. Number one, there are convenience products. Let me go back here. I'm going to go ahead and go full screen on this so you guys can see it better. Okay, number one are convenience products. A convenience product would be something that people buy out of convenience. They don't put much thinking into it. They just buy it quickly. An example would be a magazine. Number two would be shopping products. A shopping product is a product that people spend more time researching and looking into, and they compare and they analyze. They're giving they're shopping, they're looking, they're taking more time to evaluate the pros and cons. The next one would be specialty products. A specialty product is something that is very high-end or unique, such as expensive jewelry would be an example of this. So, does it have real pearl diamonds? Does it have true jewels? Is it 24 karat gold? These tend to be more expensive. They're not bought as impulsively. They're bought, less frequently. But when they're purchased, it's a big deal. And customers do a lot of evaluation after making these kinds of product purchases. The next kind would be an emergency product. Let's say you're going on a camping trip and you realize, oh my goodness, our tent has a hole in it and it's probably going to rain. We need to buy something quickly. So they go online really quick to Amazon and they find a tent and they buy it because it's an emergency. And the last one would be an unsought product. An unsought product is something that customers do not necessarily know about. So it's a little small, I know, but the example there is an organizer for headphones. You can take these headphones and wrap them around this little reel that almost looks like a reel for twine or thread, and it keeps them from getting tangled. A lot of people may not know that this product exists, and the challenge here is it's going to require more education on your end. You have to educate your customer before they'll actually make a purchase decision. So keep in mind, however, and this is where a lot of people get confused, it is the customer who determines what category these are, not you or me. In other words, for one customer, what may be an emergency product because they're going on a last-minute weekend camping trip may be a shopping product to someone else because they're actually planning out their camping trip 3 months in advance when they have vacation time from work. For someone else, a convenience product for one person. They're just buying it out of convenience. It's simple. Someone else might consider it more shopping because they put more time into it. To them, it's a bigger deal what kind of Kleenex they use for their nose, because certain kinds of Kleenex give their nose a rash and make it red. So these are the different kinds of product categories that customers purchase on Amazon. When you understand these categories, it makes it a lot easier for you to know, is this product a generic brand? Is it just generic label out there? Or is it something that's a major brand that's well known and there's a lot of customer loyalty to? And that's what brings us to the next slide. And can you guys see and hear okay, Dan?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Let me know if you can see this slide okay.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, great. So the question is, what do you mean by generic product? Notice the picture of the two kinds of ketchup. See the one on the right? See that brand name? It's really obvious. It's Heinz. Everyone knows that Heinz is a well-known brand for ketchup. And some people, when they're on Amazon, they're going to search Heinz ketchup. That is the only kind of ketchup they want. They will ignore everything else because there's brand loyalty to this ketchup. But notice the one on the left side. It doesn't have any major brand name. In fact, nothing sticks out to me except it looks like ketchup, and I see some really nice red juicy tomatoes. So someone who is not brand loyal would be happy to buy the one on the left, especially because they're going to save $3. Did you guys know that supermarkets do this all the time? If you go to Target, if you go to Walmart, what are some of the major supermarkets in your country, Dan? I want to make sure I'm speaking to all countries here.
We have stores like Pick and Pay, one called Spar, one called Checkers. I'm sure they're very different to yours, but yeah, those are like our three big ones.
So when you guys walk into Checkers or you walk into Vons or Walmart or Target, have you noticed that sometimes you can go to, let's say, the food section, and there will be the Cheerios brand for cereal, but then you'll see the Target or the Checkers brand, and it's $3 or $2 or £2 lower in cost? Why is that? Well, guys, they're doing the exact same thing we are doing on Amazon. They are private labeling. What they're doing is they're creating their own private label of a product. Now, this becomes a challenge if you are trying to sell in a category that has a lot of brand loyalty. For example, there's a lot of brand loyalty in clothing and fashion. So you have to really niche down to specific clothing types if you don't want to compete with the big boys in that product classification. If you're selling belts, for example, way less brand loyalty as compared to shoes. If someone goes to Amazon and they type in Nike shoes and they see your brand of shoes, and let's say your shoes are called Victory Sports, what are the chances they're going to buy yours versus Nike? Everyone knows who Nike is. In fact, we know the swoosh and the Just Do It because they've educated their customers on their brand. It's not a generic brand. It is a well-known major brand. Therefore, it's very difficult to compete. Now, I understand there's still a challenge here, and that is, let's say you guys are trying to sell a product in Amazon, and your question is this: how do I know if it's a major brand? Well, number one, there's a very easy way to help with this. If you use a keyword search tool and you go and search, let's say, for example, ketchup, and let's just pretend that out of all the searches for ketchup, there are 10,000 for ketchup and there are 8,000 for Heinz ketchup. That tells me that almost half of the searches are committed to a brand. That would make me very hesitant to sell ketchup because people are searching for the brand. They already have a major share of the market. But if it's a different kind of product, let's pretend the product is a hand sanitizer. And there, I don't know of a hand sanitizer that has a major brand loyalty. I'm looking at one on my desk and it's called Assured. I have no idea who Assured is. In fact, I don't think when my wife bought this, I don't think she thought, oh, it's Assured, I'm going to buy it. I don't think she cares. She just wants to know, does this work for keeping the kids' hands clean in her house? So in that situation, if I go to Keyword Tool or Merchant Words and I search hand sanitizer and I see maybe 2,000 searches for the Assured brand, but I see 20,000 just for hand sanitizer, that tells me it is probably a generic brandable item. Any questions so far, Dan?
No, not that I can see here. Nothing yet.
Okay. So here's a phrase I love, and Dan coined this phrase. Thank you, Dan. A generic brand is this. It's a product not widely associated with a well-known name because there's little to no advertising effort. Guys, if you compete with a major brand, the problem you're going to run into is you are going to have to promote your brand like crazy, spend lots of time and money and hours in order to get people to recognize you as a worthy brand. That's why you don't want to compete with major brands. Here's another little tip you can use when you're doing product search. And this is easy to do on a maze out. And if you're in the UK and the United States, you'll appreciate this technique I'm about to share with you. When you're in a maze out and you're searching for a product and you pull up all those major competitors, the top performers, if 40% or more of the top performers are being sold by major brands, or in this case, the same brand, I would not touch it. If they have 40% of the market or more, my chance of succeeding is much less. So the easiest way to find out if it's a major brand on Amazon that I shouldn't compete with is find out who are the top performers. And if 40% or more of those is one brand that you don't know about, or it's multiple brands, but they're all very, very well known, that's where I would say, you know what? This is not worth my time because I'm going to be competing with people who have tons of money to put behind their ads. However, let me add one caveat to that, you guys. A lot of major brands do not know what they're doing on Amazon. There are husband and wife teams making millions of dollars literally every year on Amazon, more money on Amazon than a huge company is making on Amazon, because the huge company is so big and so fat, and they don't know, they can't change and move quickly because they're so huge, and they haven't taken the time to understand Amazon. Therefore, they're not doing it right. Their listing is crappy. It's horrible. It sucks. And therefore, there are smaller teams of people, maybe a husband and wife team, maybe a team of 3 or 4 people who are just crushing it. But just make sure before you do it, find out who the top performers are and if they have a major share of that market or not. All right, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Can you hear me?
There we go. It always takes a little bit of a delay when I switch. So go ahead, Dan.
So Julie asks, is there a ratio of brand searches to generic searches that make it an acceptable product to sell? So would you have a number for that, or would you say your guideline before would relate to that?
Yes, I would use 40% as a general guideline. If close to half of it is already being taken by a major brand, then I'm going to be very hesitant, especially because that brand is probably growing. It's an indication they know what they're doing, and they're growing and growing and growing. But a stronger indicator of this is who the top performers are on Amazon. That's a stronger indicator than what the searches are on Google, Bing, and DuckDuckGo, those major search engines. Because remember, those search engines are not Amazon. So people might be searching a lot there, but they're not selling well on Amazon. See, so they might be selling well on the internet, but not Amazon. So the strongest indicator is who are all your top performers, and ask this question. If I have 10 strong competitors, and of those 10, 4 of them are all the same company, all the same brand, or they're all major brands, that's where I would hesitate and I'd say, this might not be worth going up against because this is a heavyweight that I'm going to have to compete with, and I may not have enough capital to sustain that competition until I get a large share of the market to make money.
I think also just asking like the question to yourself. So if you were to go and buy running shoes, immediately brands start popping up. Whereas if it's something, if it's a generic product category, there usually won't be names associated there instantly. But yeah, I think 40% is a good ratio. But I think it's a lot about if there's a lot of big brands you know about that you buy in that category, then that's a no-go. That's an area to stay out of.
Yeah, very good.
So Maria asks, how do you get permission to sell a major brand? Is it through one of their distributors? How do you even get a name brand to sell?
You want to take that, Dan, or do you want me to?
Uh, I think you take that one. I haven't sold a major brand, so I don't know if you have experience with that.
Absolutely. So, Maria, here's a question I ask you. Have you called the company and asked them? That would be my first question. You just need to pick up the phone and call them. Every company has a different method or procedure for being a distributor of their brand or of their product. All you need to do is find out what that is. So look at it this way. If there was no one distributing a product, there would be no sales for the company. They have to have a way to get it out there. And some of them are set up so they can wholesale to a whole lot of retailers that will sell it for them. And others, they want to do all the retail themselves. They hold that very tightly. So the first question is, do they even offer that? The second question is, if they do offer it, what is the method? Now, back before we ever sold on Amazon, and my wife was selling a whole lot of clothing on Instagram and eBay, we actually approached several major brands. And when we approached those brands, we asked this question: can we sell your product? Can we buy a huge quantity from you at a discount, wholesale, and then we raise the price and sell it retail? And the number one roadblock to that was they would say, well, you have to have a brick and mortar store. They would not, most of them would not do it unless we had a brick and mortar store. Well, we didn't have a brick and mortar store. I didn't want to be tied to a physical location. I wanted to be mobile and to be able to sell online. Therefore, for those who wouldn't allow us to, we did not close that deal. So that is, and again, that's some older mindset thinking, traditional thinking, like, oh, you have to have a store for it to be legit. But there's so much money to be made online. But yeah, just go directly to the company and ask them. You want to take the next question, Dan?
Okay, yeah. So Mashfiq asks, can you talk about shipping from China to Amazon, to the Amazon warehouse in USA a bit, especially about the customs duties? So I don't ship to US currently, rather UK, but in terms of shipping, what are you talking about? How to ship the products? Because there's either you can use your actual supplier. Often they will have very, very cost-effective ways of shipping the product from China. And then there are also other ways you can use other shipping services like your big companies like DHL and so on. But then you can also use FBA-specific companies like FBAforward.com. So those are like your three major ways to actually ship the product to the warehouse. And then obviously you need to consider air or sea shipping and how you do that. In terms of the customs duties, I don't know if you want to touch a bit on that, Seth, for the US.
Sure.
But it will have to go through the port and be processed.
There's three ways to ship a product to the US, and this is probably true for other countries as well. The three ways are, number one, you can do it door-to-door express shipping. That's by an airplane. It goes directly to your warehouse or your house. The number two is to an airport. So it goes by plane express, but to an airport, not to your house. The number three is to a seaport. This is shipping by sea. As a general rule of thumb, with the larger the quantity you're going to buy, the slower the shipping, the more money you save, the more time you lose. So when you are selling 20,000 a month, 20,000 units, you should be shipping by sea. And if you're shipping by sea, you need to hire a customs agent who can take care of the entry forms in the US and can take care of the import laws, and you have to purchase a bond. And this bond is insurance. So if for some reason you didn't have enough money to pay for the import, it covers you so the US government gets their money. So what I do is I use usimportbond.com. I can post it later here if you guys want. It's also in the build section of the training. But they will manage all of that for you. Yeah, you'll pay more in customs and fees and all that, but the shipping is so cheap it counteracts it. If you're doing it to an airport, you need someone or yourself, you can do it, but it is a pain in the butt, to fill out what's called an entry form in the US. And so when it comes into the airport, someone has to fill out this very long, complicated document to get it approved. Well, because I value my time more than my money, I would pay someone to do that. The airport is sort of an in-between option from shipping by sea and shipping door-to-door express. Door-to-door express is where I always start. That's why we try to keep your product underneath a pound. So if your product isn't too heavy, yes, you're going to pay more in shipping. You might pay as much shipping per unit as you do for the unit itself. But if you're starting off, you don't want to be purchasing 15,000 of a product. It's too risky. You don't want to put all your eggs in that one basket. So door-to-door makes total sense. And the way customs is handled there is you use a major shipping company like UPS, DHL, FedEx, and it's part of the company. They provide that shipping company. They provide the services that a customs agent would do. They take care of the paperwork for you. That's partly what you're paying for. They have employees who are trained on how to do it. Therefore, you never have to deal with that. Sometimes it's going to show up at your house and you're still going to have to pay something. And there's nothing you can do to control that. It happens to us maybe once every month. Out of the many other shipments we get, it does happen. And that is something to do with where it came from in China and how it worked out. And I'm not going to go into it right now. But as a general rule of thumb, you'll pay more for air shipping door to door, but you also can do smaller quantities more easily that way. Hey, Mashfiq, if you don't mind, use the question mark logo when you ask the question. It just makes it so much easier for us to find it. Just click on the little button, Mashfiq, next to it, and it gives you the question mark option. Ahmad says, I have a retail store and selling brand name merchandise. So Ahmad, that's awesome. If you have a retail store, it gives you way more power to negotiate with these major brands and sell their products. I'll let you take the next one, brother.
Okay, so K. Alex says, if I want to ship to the airport, where and how do I hire someone to do the entry form? And how much does that cost? So yeah, you'll have to find the import agent, and I mean, how on average, how much does that cost you, Seth, when you get
over $100? It's not that expensive, between $100 and $200 in the US. And guys, just Google it. You'll find a ton of them. The first time I did it, I talked to a ton of people, Dan. Some I didn't trust, some I trusted more. If you guys want someone you can use for the US, I just chatted you guys the link. They're really good. And they will do either the shipping by sea or the airport, either way. Keep in mind, though, that's time. So you still have to drive to the airport, fill out the form, or pay someone to fill out the form, pick it up, get it to your house. Just every decision you guys make in business should be a balance of time and money. At the beginning stages, you're going to spend more time, save money. But as you grow in your income, you're going to spend more money to save your time, because you'll end up finding time as your greatest asset. Maria says if you pay, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you pay door to door, do the major carriers take care of the duties in that fee as well? And in my experience, yes, they will take care of the entire process until it gets to your door. So you won't have to concern yourselves with the import duties and taxes and all of that.
Yeah, same here as well, Dan. And here, 99% of the time they take care of it. Every now and then there's a leftover fee that has to be paid, and you have to pay it, but for the most part, yeah, they do. Awesome. So what I'm going to do, guys, is we're going to go through the next part on patents. I'm going to cover that, and then Dan's going to cover the whole customer buying process, which is super key to selling stuff. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me know when you can see it, Dan.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, excellent. This question is a great question. It comes up a lot. How do I know if I'm infringing on a patent? Number one, please know that a company cannot actually patent an entire product. With very rare exceptions, companies don't patent an entire product. If I have, my Bluetooth speaker here, they can't patent this entire speaker. That means they have to patent the design, the color, the handle, the technology, the mechanics, the Bluetooth, everything. They can't do that, because then that would mean no one else could sell a speaker. Didn't they patent the speaker itself? No. So keep in mind, you guys, that a company patents a part of the product or a feature or an aspect or a system, a mechanism, or even the process they used to build out that product. So the easiest way to find out if what was patented is, let's say, for example, you find a product, you start selling it, and you get this message that no one wants to get. Hey, John, I'm really sorry to tell you this. Well, they probably wouldn't say they're sorry. They'd probably say, hey, John, you're in trouble. We're going to take you to court if you dare sell this, because this is our patent, and we have a trademark for this as well, and it is protected under U.S. or U.K. government, whatever, European Union. And so now you're thinking, oh man, am I in trouble? What do I do? The first thing you do is you ask them for their patent number. Patents have two stages. First, there's the application process, and then there's the approved registered process. In both cases, they receive a number. If they've applied for the patent, they cannot enforce it until it's approved. Now, they can use it to intimidate, to scare, and to keep people away, which I think is legit. You would do the same if you were creating your own product. But you need to find out what is their registration or application number. Ask them for it. Say, hey, I don't want to infringe on any rights. Thank you so much for sharing. Please send me your application number or your registration number. By law, at least in the US, they have to give that to you, so that you can go to uspto.gov and you can search and find out the patent. You can even Google it. Google actually has patents. There's a Google website for all the patents that have apparently been applied for or registered in the US. I don't know how thorough it is, but it's supposed to be quite thorough. So what you do is you search it up and you find out what exactly was patented. So let's say, for example, they're selling dumbbells, and they have a patent on the handle. It's a special rubber that conforms to your fingers so it doesn't cut your hands up. The other day I was at the gym with my son. We're at Gold's Gym, and his hands were literally bright red. And I thought, man, wouldn't that be cool? Because he's only 15, so his hands aren't as rough and tough as mine. I used to do construction. Wouldn't it be cool if there's some kind of patent, something you can put around the dumbbell to protect your skin? That's a part of the dumbbell. It's not the entire dumbbell. So if you came out with your own dumbbell, by the way, that'd be a horrible product to sell because it's so heavy. I'm just using it as an example. But if you came out with your own dumbbell, and on the dumbbell, what you did is you added your own kind of handle to protect the skin, but it did not use the same process. It didn't use the same design or the same material, then you're okay. So the key here is knowledge. You need to understand what they patented. And again, keep in mind, if they have just registered but not been approved, because it can take a long time to get a patent approved, and it's also very expensive, so it's rare you're going to come up against this unless you are in a product category where there's large companies, huge companies. That's where you're more likely going to run into a patent infringement issue. But let's just say they send you the number and it's their their application number, not the approval number. If that is the case, you can sell off your product quickly if it is truly infringing on the patent before they get approved. That way, at least you get your money back, if not, be done with the product and move on to something else. We've actually had people in this community who've done that exact thing. On the other hand, if it's true that what they patented is just a part and yours does not infringe on that, they have no power. Don't let that intimidate you. At the least, get a lawyer at least to look at it and say, hey, just give me your opinion on this. What do you think? So don't let that scare you. But the easiest way to avoid this completely, everyone, is don't sell a product that's so complicated that it's likely to have a patent. That's the easiest way. There are certain generic products it would be pretty impossible to have a patent on. And you can have a pretty good idea if you just Google the product and look around. If there's some kind of patent, it's usually going to pop up. They're going to talk about, otherwise, why would they be selling it? They're going to say patented on Amazon because they want to protect themselves as much as possible. So the information is not hard to find, but what's powerful here is the knowledge in order to protect yourself.
Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, I just muted there. I was replying to a few questions in the text box. That's great on patents. I just wanted to expand a little bit on patents, if you don't mind, just to clarify between sort of the main three, and that's patents, copyrights and trademarks. So with you've discussed a patent, and that can apply to a specific aspect of the product, um, down to even a raw material they use in the manufacturing. Um, so a patent is more or less your intellectual property in physical form, in product form. Whereas a copyright is quite similar, but that is to do with copy, so writing, so that you could in fact actually copyright even your handbook or instructions with your product, or if you do, if you're an author and write books like Christine does, you can copyright your books. And then lastly is trademarks. With trademarks, you're going to you can trademark two aspects of your brand. The first being your brand mark, which will actually be the logo. So if that's your circular logo or square logo, the actual picture. And then the second part would be the word mark, which you can also trademark. And then those are for specific regions. So if you sell in the US, you'll have to do a US trademark. If you expand to the UK, then you'll have to do a UK trademark. So I just wanted to just give a quick distinction between those three, because it can be a little bit confusing with whichever one you do run into.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And I highly recommend, if you write a book, a how-to manual, or draw a picture or some cool logo design, that you get it copyrighted, and you can register for that here. It's very easy to do. It's extremely easy, actually, much easier than trademarking or patenting. As a general rule of thumb, copywriting is the easiest, trademarking is the second hardest, and patenting is the hardest and the most expensive, because in order. But when you show Amazon, hey, here's my copyright number or my copyright proof, here's my trademark approval, here's my patent registration, they will treat that with great respect, much more than if you just say, oh, but I really worked hard and we did this and blah, 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 blah. We did all this to protect it. They actually want proof. They want to know that you spent the time and the money to protect it, that you could actually stand up in a court of law and say, I protect this. Amazon is treating people with that with far more respect than they used to in the old days. And I can't believe I'm saying the old days, Dan. That's like 9 months ago.
And Seth, so Julie asks, how often do you have to renew your trademark? I know for copyrights, it's actually 50 years, and this is for my region.
Right.
For for patents, I think it's 20 years in our region. So, do you know what it would be for trademarking? Do you have any idea on the renewal process, or how long that trademark would last?
Yeah, I actually just now Googled it because I don't know. That's a great question. I don't think I've had a trademark long enough to know the answer to that. I'm looking right now, and it says at uspto.gov, let's see, for trademark registration to remain valid, an affidavit of use, Section 8 affidavit, must be filed between the 5th and 6th year following registration. And within the year before the end of every 10-year period after the date of registration. So basically, between the 5th and 6th year, you register, and then when you get to the 5th and 6th year, somewhere in that range, you need to file an affidavit. And then within the year before the end of a 10-year period after the date of registration. So you're looking at 5 to 6 to 10 years. I will send you a link on this so you can look it up yourself. And thank you. That's a great question.
And okay, Kay Alex asks, what about a poster design? If I copy a seller, but I tweak the poster. Well, if that poster is copyrighted, if you see a little C symbol, and sometimes people actually do just use the C symbol without actually copywriting, and the same for trademarking, I've heard. But if it is copyrighted, then you're not allowed to copy any of that information directly and then replicate it. What a copyright does is it gives the person who created that information, it gives them rights, so that if you ever need to copy the information, even with textbooks, if you go and it's illegal to go and just copy a copyrighted textbook. You need the permission of the owner of that information. So, okay, Alex, I'd be careful of doing that. And maybe you can make a far better poster, or I'll just be careful of copying it very closely.
Can you hear me okay, Dan?
Say again?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. You just cut off your
Oh, sorry about that.
Let's do this, Dan. Let's jump to the next stage of the presentation, then we'll come back and get your guys' questions. So I'll share my screen, and then, Dan, you can walk through this process, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'll mute myself so you can't hear me, and then give me 1 sec, guys.
Okay, got it. Can you hear me, Seth?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, man. You can present this part.
Okay, so this part is just basically going to go over understanding your customer is the key to selling tons of your product. So what we're going to do here is just cover briefly what process your consumer actually goes through when they look for a product. And a lot of you will know this just by nature because you search for products yourself. But it's just good to understand this, and this gives us a little bit of it gives actually a good groundwork on understanding why we then choose convenience products and lower end shopping products, and why we look for generic products. So the first step that starts the consumer decision-making process would be problem recognition. So this is a stage at which a consumer realizes that they need to satisfy a specific need or solve a specific problem. They realize there's an imbalance between where they want to be and where they currently are. And that can happen simply by seeing someone else using that product. It can happen in times when a consumer perhaps has increased income, and so they want to perhaps expand and improve their living conditions. It can happen even by just seeing an advert for a product. Perhaps you run your PPC ads, and by putting the product in front of someone, they realize that they would love to have that product. They want to buy that product. They have a need that product would solve. So that would be step one. And step two would be an information search. So in the information search, they are basically looking for information on how they can solve that problem they have found, or how they can improve their situation, what is available to help them close that gap that they have found. So in this, they will actually conduct an internal search, which is going to be inside. So many of you will remember doing this at some point, but that's just looking back at your memory and your experiences and what you've heard from your friends and family about brands or products and certain solutions that can help you solve this problem. And then the second is the external search, and that involves them actually going online and typing in search terms, hopefully your main keywords, and that is the search terms to find the solution to this product, to this problem. So that would be the external search. And then stage three of the process would be an evaluation of all the alternatives. So the shopper has now typed in what they're looking for, and they have multiple options open to them. They have various products on Amazon that are open to them. So at this point, they're actually going to use predetermined criteria that they have on specific features of the product that they want. So they may want specific aspects of the product, and this is how they'll begin to weed out the weaker offerings and create a consideration set. And that is what you want to get into. When people are searching and they find a group, you want to be differentiated enough or have a sort of one of the best deals or lowest price points in order to get into that consideration set. Because from that group, the consumer will actually make the final decision. So after that, that is stage 3. We would go to stage 4, which is the actual buying decision. So from the consideration set, the consumer will choose a specific product that will solve their problem best, or add the most value, or satisfy that need best. And once they've then made that decision, the last step in the process, step 5, is post-buying evaluation. So in post-buying evaluation, there will be 2 main parts of this. And the first would be a post-buying assessment, in which the consumer looks at what they received and the value they derived, and they evaluate whether the seller's promises were kept. They will evaluate whether you have delivered on time and the quality of the product. And this is usually where your review is going to come from. So if they are going to leave one, this post-buying assessment is where that is going to be. This is where you're going to find out if this is going to be a negative review or a positive review. And the second aspect of this step is post-buying learning. And that is simply that the consumer will then retain that knowledge and what they've learned in solving this problem for later. So they're going to use it moving forward as an experience of, are they going to buy your product again to solve this problem? Are they going to tell their friends about your product, and what are they going to say? Are they going to spread negative word of mouth or positive word of mouth? So that is the final step in that they're going to take that information forward for future decisions. So that's basically the 5-step decision-making process. And the reason why we want to look for convenience products and lower-end shopping products is because they have a lower price point in general. Also, that those brands have usually those are the brands with, or the products with fewer brands, So what happens with consumers is their involvement in this decision-making process and the time that they spend going through different offerings and looking at different features and considering brand name and the prestige they get from that is much, much higher. The involvement is much, much higher when there's a higher perceived risk. And one of the biggest factors in perceived risk is price. So if the price is high, the perceived risk is high, and the consumer involvement is very high. So there's a lot of decision making, a lot of back and forth, a lot of looking for the best brand, a lot of comparing features. And what we are looking to do is rather find those products that are convenience items, in that the consumer finds it, they like it, and they buy it. We don't want them, for the most part, to spend a huge amount of time looking through and comparing. We want to be able to capture that market that purchases instantly and impulsively, and hopefully habitually. In certain categories more so than others, you'll actually have habitual buyers that buy a commodity again and again and again, especially those commodities that run out. But that is the reason why we go for the convenience products and the lower priced items, a lot of which are also more generic, so you can succeed with your brand. Whereas with the more expensive products, there's often big brands involved, which spend a lot on marketing and advertising to basically augment their products so that there's an emotional attachment to those more expensive products. So yeah, that's basically the decision-making process and how it links to the choice of convenience products and generic products.
Thank you, Dan. This is really key what he talked about convenience and shopping. And while Dan was talking, I thought about this. So Brian, you guys have received products from him. He helps a lot with the research for these products. He gave me these glasses. These are special glasses, kind of geeky looking glasses, and they actually don't have any power in the lens themselves for vision correction. What they do is they remove a lot of that harmful headache producing blue light that comes off your screen. The other thing is they have a slight magnification, which is nice, helps me to lean back, which is good for my posture. I started thinking about this. You know how, have you guys ever run into this situation where the little screw right there will come out? And so you get one of these little guys right here, you know what I'm talking about? And if you pull off the cap, check this out, guys. Inside here, you can see the tiny little screws. Can you see that, Dan?
Yeah, I can see it.
Those screws are so small. And so I will take them out, and I have fairly large hands. I do not have petite hands. And I will take the screw, and I will try to get down here and screw it in. And it is so inconvenient. And it keeps dropping, and I need light, and then I lose it. And I'm sitting here right when I think I got it to stand up, and I bring this up, it falls. And so then I try to, put the screw so it's standing up on end, and real fast go like that, and then it falls. It can be so annoying. This is a great example of what you could think about as a convenience type product. How could you make this process more convenient? Whether or not you want to do a patent on it. Like, this is a convenience kind of product. People aren't going, man, I got to get this brand of that screwdriver, for glasses. They don't care. Now, if you were in construction and, home building and home improvement, and you're looking for a power drill, you're probably going to have some level of commitment to DeWalt or Milwaukee, because those are higher end brand, maybe Craftsman for some of the more hand tools. So that's more brand loyalty, but something like this, way less brand loyalty. This would be an example of what Dan's talking about. This is a convenience product. It's simple, it's light, and people aren't going to be spending 10 hours of research before they decide what screwdriver they want for their glasses. See, it's simple. Now, if you're talking about contacts, or maybe even glass frames or certain sunglasses, now you may be talking about brand loyalty. People are going to spend a little more time, because contacts, I'm putting them in my eyeball. That's a big deal. I'm very picky about what goes in my eye. So I'm going to do some research. See? So try to think about it that way. In every product category, you're going to get a spectrum of the high-end specialty products and the more convenience products. Let me give you another example. If you were going to sell computers, I'm on a computer right now. The computer is a specialty product. Tons of thought's going to go into buying something that expensive. But a cable for the computer may not be so picky. It's an accessory. A lot of accessories fit the category of convenience or even shopping type products. That's how you avoid the whole patent issue. And it also gives you a lot of opportunity to be creative in how you present your solution to the market.
Yeah, that's a good point, Seth, because a lot of although you don't want to be competing with the big brands, you can accessorize for those big brands. So a good example would be, it's not the best example, but like a big industry coming up is drones. So drones there's very big brand prominence in drones, but so you wouldn't look to compete with your own drone. But if you looked at perhaps drone landing pads, then there's options to accessorize for those bigger brands, while still being in that lower price bracket, and not competing with those big brands.
Yep. Really good example. It's a product that's serving a bigger product. Find the ones that serve a bigger purpose. Rob Keel says, is patent pending registered, or is it still in the application phase? It is still in the application phase. You get a number once you've applied, Rob, but it has to be approved. And that's a different number you get once it's been approved. And then Mashfiq says, you do need trademarking to apply for brand registry now. Yes, you do. If my trademarking is in process, can I still apply for brand registry? Yes, you can, but Amazon closed that. I don't know if it's opened up yet. I haven't tried. It was supposed to open up in May. That was the rumor. The link is on the Build website, the Build pages, Mashfiq, for where to do that, or you can just Google it and you'll find it. So yeah, you should try it and see. But that will open up again, and yes, you can. Here's what I do know. Back when you could get brand gating, and you still can, it's just brand registry and grading may become one and the same, very likely. You had to at least have a trademark application, if not approval. If you had an application and you send them a number, they really appreciate that. I have an application number for Just One Die. We just went through the trademarking process for our coaching company. Christine says, all written material is copyrighted to its creator, even if they have not filed for a copyright number. That is 100% correct. However, Amazon will take you far more seriously if you actually have a copyright number. Mashfiq says you can edit it to include the question mark. Yes, that is, or Jacob says, yep, exactly. You can edit it, Mashfiq. Pavel, Dan, you want to take this question? He says, is there any similar like copyright registry onlineform.com copyright registration in Europe?
Yes, I replied in text. I'm not certain on this. I haven't copyrighted information yet, but I'm pretty certain that it would be very similar to the one you've posted here. Just a UK version. So yeah, Pavel, I would just do a search online regarding the UK copywriting if you're looking to copyright information.
And Nancy said, magnify those screws. I'm thinking a tiny screw with a massive head with a regular screwdriver. That'd be kind of cool. No, that wouldn't work because it would be weird on the glasses. Make the screwdriver tip magnetic. I know, John, they do that in construction. There are some that are magnetic and it fixes the issue right there. Or rub your screwdriver on a magnet. It will go magnetic and hold the screw. I like that. That's a hack. That's a life hack, Amanda. Very nice. Only if the screws are steel. This is true. I lose a lot of those little screws. See, you guys can relate to this issue. It's a convenience issue. It's annoying. It's emotionally disturbing to take a tiny little screw and try to get it in there. I hate it. And so someone's got to come up with a solution for this. Okay, Kay Alex says this. Can I brand register with copyrighted instead of trademark? No. You need a trademark. You do need a trademark, brother. And Maria says, if we have a product ready to launch, you want to take this one, Dan, the last question?
Yeah, if we have a product ready to launch that we private labeled, do we need to wait to have brand registry and wait for Amazon to open up for brand registry, even if our product is not in a gated category? So I think what you're asking is if you have to wait for Amazon to open up brand registry for you. In my experience, no, you won't have to wait to brand register. You can apply for brand registry right away, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And regardless of the gated, whether you're in the gated category or not.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct, Dan. You don't have to wait. You can private label it now, absolutely, 100%. So Fred says, can you see this? Now I'm cooking. I don't know, Fred. What are you cooking? Is it chicken? Or you mean you're cooking like you're in trouble now? Gummy coating on the screw head. Oh, nice. I like it. Okay, Doug says this. Is there a generic trademark category? I read somewhere that there is an online retail category. It's called classification number 35, and it's technically for marketing services. Now, there is debate amongst lawyers how effective this can be if someone claimed that you were using a trademark that was theirs, how well would it hold up in court when you're selling generic products, but what you've actually trademarked is advertising? I know Susie Hickson recommends it, but what you need is all those products need to be on a website selling, or at least on a website for sale, so you can say, look, I'm doing this. But yeah, that is an option, Doug, if you want to do it. It's number 35. I think it's less defensible in court, but it still is really nice instead of getting a new trademark for every single category that you sell in.
Jacob says, Seth, how do you actually determine in Amazon the 40% market share test that you mentioned?
So what you do is you look at your top competitors. Jacob, remember how when you do your research and you find a product and you hit trap product by adding a keyword, and then it shows you the large number, like let's say 10, and then a slash, then a small number, maybe 1,200. Those 10 are your top competitors. And then you click on competitors and lists on the upper right side, competitors and lists, and it pulls up all the top competitors. That's where I find it. So if 40% of those are either the same seller or just all major brands, that, like Reebok, Nike, etc., that's where I'm going to go, man, maybe I should not be sourcing these shoes. That's how I do it.
And then Julie says, what is the difference between brand registry and brand gating? I think that's brand gating. So I'm sure you'll have a lot to add on the Seth, but brand registry is basically getting your brand into the registration and deterring people from selling under your listing, but it is not foolproof. People can actually still list under your listing. And brand gating is far more foolproof, where people can't actually sell under your listing or change the bullet points and the title.
Exactly correct. Hijack or piggyback on your listing either, which is really nice. So far as we know, brand registry and brand gating are becoming what in this? So it's going to be brand register / brand than it was to get brand registered in the past. But brand gating's always been difficult. So once it's done, and no one can sell under your listing, which is a huge help because that removes hijackers. And then Marie says, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question on this point. What if you are brand registered already and now the changes come in?
Yeah.
So if this new brand registry would include gating, would you be just grandfathered in a way, or are they going to ask for documents, or would you have to apply for gating?
The second. So they're going to ask for documents, so you still need to apply. So your brand registry protects you from anyone else editing your listing, which is nice, but it does not protect people from selling on your listing. And the grandfathering does not happen. No, you still have to provide that trademark to apply. Sorry to hear you share this news, but yes. You were hopeful there, weren't you, Dan?
I was.
Marie says, what happens if on my listing I display a trademark logo even though I have not a trademark? So Marie, here's what's nice about it. Let's say your trademark is Golden Forks. And I know it's kind of a weird trademark. Let's just say it's you're trademarking that word mark. Okay, your brand name, your trademark is Golden Forks. And you haven't even applied for a trademark yet. But you are telling the world, hey everyone, I'm claiming that this trademark is mine. Because I started using it, no one else can use it, and based on common law, first rights use, this is mine. You can put the TM superscript. You know what I'm talking about, Marie? At the top of the word, the TM stands for trademark superscript at the top to claim it as yours. Now, this is true for the United States. I'm not speaking for United Kingdom here, Italy, etc., just so you know. I know this is true for the United States, and you can claim it, which gives a little bit of credibility to your claim in case someone later came and contended that. You can say, no, I've been using this. See, when you apply for your trademark, they're going to ask you, how long have you been using it? When did you start? And so that your application will apply to the day you started. It doesn't start from the day now today. Let's say 2 years ago, you started using Golden Forks. Your application, you're applying for it to cover you and protect you all the way from that date. The reason that's important is if someone else started using it before you did, even if it wasn't trademarked and you got your trademark, they could still beat you in court. They could still say, we win because we were using it first. See that, Marie? So that's where you have to be careful. So yes, use the TM. And then once you're approved, you use the registered R. And that means you're registered. Now, I know this for a fact, and you may know more on this, Dan. The European Union is much more strict on trademarks than the United States. The United States is a little more laid back and about this, but the European Union, it's harder to get trademarked, and they're more strict, and you have less options. I know this from a lawyer, not from experience.
Yeah, I haven't gone through the entire trademarking process as of yet, but I know it can also be quite expensive. Actually, from what I have researched, I've seen that it's actually more expensive to trademark in the US as opposed to the UK. But then again, it is a much larger market. So, but yeah, it was. I think it's doable, but probably a bit more strict, as
Yeah.
well as with even just Amazon verification.
Yeah. I know when we got our store open in the UK, it was harder than to open it in Canada. I live in the US, we'll open it in Canada, in the UK. The UK was more difficult. But yeah, you may be right on the price thing. That's interesting. Keep in mind, too, you guys, that and this actually answers one of the questions. Doug says, does Amazon recognize the 35 trademark class? They do. Amazon's not as interested in the class as they are in, hey, I have a trademark, here it is, you can go verify. Amazon is not a lawyer. They're not a lawyer school. They're not specialists in this area. They just want to know. I mean, look at Amazon as another company selling products. That's it. Look at them that way. They're not. They're in fact, Amazon's very hesitant to take anyone to court. Do you guys know why? They're extremely rarely take people to court. It's almost unheard of because if you're in court, you're required to testify if you're either the defendant or the person who's accusing. I forget what they're called. I forget the term, but anyway, it's the person who's accusing someone else, and you're required to share information that they do not want the world to know. Therefore, a lot of times they will just stop. They're very hesitant for that reason. So they're not lawyers. They don't care about the registration application as long as you can defend it and say, here it is, it's approved. Well, if the USPTO approved it, then they must be legit.
Thank you, Seth. And then Pavel asks, how do you think it will be possible to apply for brand registry in Europe with a US trademark? So, Pavel, the first thing is with brand registry, you don't need a trademark. You can apply to brand registry today in Europe. But when you get to the point of wanting to brand gate after brand registering, then you're going to need a UK trademark.
Very good. Awesome. Well, I know there's more questions here. Jacob, the Keyword Tool Dominator, we'll post it on Facebook for you. We're going to close it up because it's 1:19. It's been a little over an hour. I want to end with one thing. I'm going to share my screen. Give me just one moment, Dan. Just let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
Everyone, this concept here is crucial to your success. We get a lot of questions about products sent out to you. Great questions. This is where your brain needs to be. Sell the problem you solve, not the product. For those of you guys who just signed up, you're not selling a little screwdriver with screws inside of it with a magnet. You're selling an easy way to put screws into your glasses. You're not selling a coffee mug. You're selling a container that brings liquid to your lips. Sell the problem you solve, not the product. I cannot overemphasize this. Number one priority for our entire team right now is to focus on this, because when you focus on this, all of a sudden, trademark, patent, copyright, generic versus private labelable brand or major brand, they all start to fall into place because you're focusing on a solution. That's the same reason patents are focused on a specific part of the process, not the entire product. It's solving a problem that no one else has claimed rights to or exclusivity to. So this is my final word to you guys. Sell the problem you solve, not the product. When you receive a product, you're looking at one, ask this question: what problem is it solving? Don't say, oh, I'm going to sell the product. No. That's the wrong thinking. It's rookie amateur thinking. Ask this question: what problem is it solving? This hand sanitizer, it keeps my child's hands clean because they get grimy. Okay? I'm not selling hand sanitizer. I'm selling something. I'm selling clean hands. That's what you're selling. And if you focus on that, your mind is in the right place, and that's how you succeed. That's it. Any final words, Dan?
No, thank you very much for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. You guys have an awesome day. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.